and it's so glorious. And it doesn't matter if you're rich, if you've had a scholarly, if you're not quite through with lower school. It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody's meeting on mats together like here. And in Switzerland, where I teach one class, it's a very, it's a select, it's friends that have been invited. And other places that I taught in Zurich, it was all people like you, just sitting. Now, do we know what kind of car we all drive? Do we know the label of your clothing? Do we know how much you make? Do we know your sexual preference? Do we know if you're married or want to be married or wish you weren't married? You know, kids, don't want kids, where's the kids? I mean, everybody's got their dreams, right? Career, living, every single thing. But when we sit here, there's a common denominator that runs through us. And for most of us, it's a longing for peace of mind. And it's a longing for connection. Connection with each other. Where in the world would you sit this close on a mat that you don't even know most of the people here? And yet we do it from city to city. You may travel a lot and go from here to there and just get on a mat in a whole room and maybe you don't know anybody. And you're just sitting and you're joining together in a unified consciousness. It's so divine that I don't even think we have a perspective because we're in it. But remember, can you all, well, close your eyes for a moment. Brian too. If that's possible. He's so busy. Now let's imagine before you ever did yoga, before you ever meditated, before you ever went into a realm of anything of consciousness, what were you doing? How did you feel? How did you look? Anybody want to say? Were you really, really happy? No? Yes? Were you restless? Wondering what was going on in life? Okay, open your eyes. Anybody want to say anything? Or you just feel just like you are now? After doing yoga or becoming a teacher, do you feel different? Yes, no, what?
Much more nervous.
Well, much more what?
Nervous.
Now you're more nervous? I was going to say, whoa. So more nervous. Okay, what's something else that people feel better about or feel that they've raised out of? Any addictions? No? You guys don't talk very much, do you? Come on, somebody. How do you feel? You. How do you feel different from doing yoga? You.
Me?
Yeah.
How do I feel different?
Yeah. Otherwise, why would you keep doing it?
Well, I just thought about what you said, like how I felt back then, and I felt very different, but I was also a teenager, so I don't know if it's yoga that, like it was just a development, and yoga was part of it, but
It must be some of it, right?
yeah, sure.
Does anyone feel stronger? Yeah.
Yoga brought me back to the state of mind which I remember in the childhood, like in the beginning of childhood. Like
good.
this peace and like middle centered happiness.
And more playfulness, more creativity. Yeah. Anybody else? Why do you do it? If it doesn't do anything, why do you do it?
I feel better when I do it?
Yeah, I feel better when I do it. Yeah.
There's more air.
More air, more room. Somebody else?
I like myself better.
What?
I think I'm nicer.
You're nicer. Yeah. Anger starts lifting that, right? Because under anger is fears. Anything else?
I'm more happy.
More happy.
Yeah.
Do you feel more creative or more powerful? Like you could make a change in your life? Like you have more guts, maybe? Yeah. More peace, sleep better. Because if it wasn't working, then it wouldn't be exploding all over the world. If it was making people feel really bad and angry and restless and more irritated and not nice, and people would not be doing it. So it's obvious it's doing something and it's changing the world. For there really is no other thing that I know of that isn't connected to a religion, nor a race or a gender, or an income bracket, or a physical condition. It's like yoga invites everyone and anyone. And there's not much things like that. And the common denominator, of course, is we all have breath. So as we move into this Aquarian age, it's been promised in the scriptures, it will be a time of light. It will be a time, if you can even imagine, just as John Lennon wrote the beautiful song Imagine, where there are no wars, where nobody goes without food, where there's more hugging, more loving. When you go through security, they're really nice, and they even give you a hug, and maybe it's even eliminated. We don't need security anymore because we're not afraid that someone's going to, bomb and everything. Can you even imagine that? But that's the promise for the Aquarian age. And we're at the dawning now. So anytime you're at a dawning of something, you'll be contested by darkness. You'll be contested by, as we move into the light, the dark will try to hang on. And we know a lot of people who are trying to hang on to the darkness, or to the false knowingness of why they're on this planet. And so, as we experience this science today, let us see if we can experience inside ourselves, which is really a little community. Everything inside of you is a community, and it has to work together. Is that right? Like if your liver isn't working with your kidneys, that's not going to work. If your thyroid, your glandular system, your heart is not working in community with the rest of your body, including your mind, how can anything work? So much of Western medicine has you almost fight each other on the inside of you through medication and through everything, just specializing in the liver, specializing in the heart. And so we're being asked as yogis to bring it into a community on the inside of you, so that everybody loves each other on the inside. And thereby, you're able to go out and love. If you have bad digestion, if you have migraine headaches, if you have cancer, if you have diseases and your body aches and stuff, it's very hard to be nice and kind. Isn't it? Because you're just kind of consumed by your own pain. Yoga can lift the pain out of you. So thereby, you have more time to be painless, therefore more time to be full of love and full of giving. So to me, that's one of the most important things of yoga, is to heal and to amalgamate the entire body. I know some of you are probably plagued with migraines, and I've known people throughout the years that have been, and so consumed that they have to go 3 days in a dark room. Well, how can you do anything to help anyone if you're sitting in the vice of your own head? And there's other things that plague people too. And then they come to yoga and it starts lifting out. The migraines go away, the digestion gets better, and all the other elements. And then they have more free time. More free time to care about other people, to be nice, to be creative. And if that could be one booming reason to do yoga, then let it be. And there's many people suffering. So we offer this to them, and as teachers you offer it, as friends, as relatives, as daughters, as sons, we offer, hey mom, why don't you come do yoga like this beautiful mom here, this beautiful daughter here. So it's an offering we can give to everyone. And we always say everyone can do it. Just start wherever you are. If you're in a wheelchair, it doesn't matter. If you can barely sit, do it on a chair. But there's something in yoga for everyone. And everyone can use it. last night we were having a dinner in Zurich, and this one fellow was next to me that I didn't know, and I said, why don't you do yoga? He said, nah, I don't need yoga. He said, I golf. And I said, well, then you need yoga even more. Because you're just going like this, and you need, and I don't think I convinced him at all, because he was into physical exercise, and he was doing his physical exercise, and therefore he didn't need. I said, as you get older and older, you get littler and littler, because the body contracts, the spine contracts, the hamstrings contract. So you know how your grandma or grandpa, they got shorter and shorter, but it didn't have to be that way, so they just disappeared. It didn't have to be that way, because if you stretch, you stay long. But if you don't stretch, the nature of the body is to get short, until you just disappear into the earth. You know how yogis, if you read stories of different yogis, you know how they leave their bodies? Anyone know? How they can die? What?
They were sitting something.
The what?
Sitting pose.
Sitting pose. They sit like this because they know exactly, because they're so tuned in to the cosmos, they know when they're ready to leave. So they just sit. They call whoever they need to be, I'm leaving now. And then they just go. But the body doesn't fall over, it just sits there. Wouldn't that be cool? Rather than to go in a hospital with all those tubes and shall we pull the cord and, the pain. We have a beautiful friend who's a lama. We have an orphanage in the northeastern corner of India. And it's for Tibetan border kids. We have a couple hundred kids there. And Lama Sir, who is the beautiful soul who runs it, he told us a story because he had been trained in the south of India as a young monk. He said his monastery was famous for Rinpoches leaving their bodies and just sitting there. And there was one that he left his body and he just sat. But it didn't decompose and it didn't smell or anything. It was just there. But his soul had gone. His heartbeat had stopped. And they were so intrigued by it that Western doctors went over, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama sent Tibetan doctors just to study this man for 30 days. And he just sat like this. And then the day that his body started to decompose, one drop of blood came from a nostril and one drop of white fluid. And that was it. The body. And so you can say, well, that's just a phenomenon, he was a Rinpoche. But no, I don't think so. I think the potential for all human beings, and I think the way it's designed, is that there's not so much trauma and drama out of our last breath. That we just prepare and we go. One last sign of that, and it all ties into the Aquarian Age where you become fearless because you know that you never die. And when you know you never die, then you're not really afraid of living. But if you think this is it, then you kind of get either give up or what does it matter? After I'm gone, I'm gone. But if you understand from a yogic point of view, you've been here 8.4 million lifetimes, you just come to go and come to go and come to go and come to go and come to go. So I have a beautiful astrologer. If anybody ever wants a reading, you can get it over the phone. He's in Mesa, Arizona. He does a Kabbalah astrology, and it's so beautiful, and he's such a wise man that he doesn't give any of his psychic little things like many astrologers do. He just reads right from your chart. So he's reading from my chart, and he says, for the next 23 years, I have to do this, this, this. And then he says, for the next 44 years, I must do this. Well, I'm 70 years old. So I'm thinking in my mind as I'm listening, that would make me, 120 some years? I mean, doesn't he realize that I'm not going to be... And then what I got, it was like one of those sensations like you get when you know there's a truth. I realized that in astrology, you are undying, unborn, and self-illumined. You never go. You always are. So he wasn't like calculating when I was going to leave my body. He was just calculating my eternal life. And so then I realized that astrology, you never die either. It's a continuation. Then you come back and get your chart, and it starts where you left off. Isn't that trippy? I was like amazed. I didn't stop him and say, hey, I got a big hit on this, because I realized this was just his world. And when he said it very regular. He didn't say, well, I know you. No, it was just like, next 43 years, this you have to do, and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, once you start getting the bigger scope, you value every day more. You see every day as almost a lifetime. And life becomes more precious and more sweet. And what used to bother you before you started doing yoga and meditating, it just isn't worth being bothered anymore about. Or it comes, but it goes quicker. Let's rub our hands together. Can we get some air? There's some pretty good air out there today. Any kind of windows that could be open? It'll